So what in the world is an alveolar flap sound? Well, you're going to find out in just a moment. Listen to these words: better, letter, waiter, meter, Peter. The sound I'm using in the middle of each of those words is the alveolar flap sound. When these words are written, they are written with the letter T, the T sound. But when they are spoken, that sound changes from the T to the alveolar flap. Da, da, da. This is one of many examples of sound changes that happen in spoken English. And these, in part, could be why you have trouble understanding spoken English, or why when you speak English, it doesn't sound natural or fluent. So you might be asking, well, what is this alveolar flap sound? When do we use it? What are the consonants that change into this alveolar flap sound? Are there rules around it? Are there exceptions? What should I know? Those are all excellent questions, and you have come to the right place to get answers to those questions. Hello, language lovers and language learners and intellectually curious folks everywhere. My name is Bakul Soman, and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the alveolar flap. We're going to learn how to make the sound. We're going to find out which two consonants can change into this alveolar flap. We're going to find out the rules that govern when they change into that alveolar flap. And of course, we're going to also learn about the exceptions, okay? Because it wouldn't be English if there weren't exceptions. Additionally, I have a free bonus PDF for you, link in the description below. It has a lot of additional examples that you can use once you watch this video. Make sure you watch the whole video because then you'll get the most out of the free PDF. So let's get started. Listen to some more words that have the alveolar flap in them. Party, batter, crowded, ladder, garden. As you can see, the sound, the consonants in the middle of those words were either the T or the D. The letter T or the letter D. Sometimes it can be single, sometimes it can be double. English doesn't really have a concept of a double sound. So either the T or the D can change into the alveolar flap sound. This sound is definitely not the T, right? Da, da, da. It's not the T. It sounds kind of like a D, but it's not really a D. Here is a word that will really help bring out the distinction between a true D sound and the alveolar flap sound. Say the word daddy, daddy, okay? The sound at the beginning of that word is a true D, D. The sound in the middle of that word is the alveolar flap, daddy. Do you hear it? It's very, very, very different. It is made completely differently. The mechanics of the sound are very different. The T and the D sounds are both stops. They're both alveolar stops, okay? I did a whole video about English consonant sounds, and we talked a lot about stops in that video. If you missed it, check it out. I have a link in the description below. But let's do a quick overview. A stop is a sound that is made by completely constricting the airflow right behind the place of articulation. For the T and D, that place of articulation is the alveolar ridge, which is that bumpy portion right above your teeth. All right, so if you run your tongue along the tops of your teeth, that bumpy ridge is the alveolar ridge, okay? So when you say the T and D sounds, you are completely blocking airflow for a very short time, but it's very noticeable in your mouth. You feel the tension building up in your mouth, and then when you say the sound, it's like the release of that tension. T, D, okay? So those are stops. The alveolar flap, on the other hand, is absolutely not a stop. Da, 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 da. There's no tension, there's no blockage of airflow. What you're doing, you're not stopping the airflow, you're actually just shaping the airflow on its way out. So it's a very fluid, dynamic, quick, fast sound. Okay? Da, da, da. And how are you making it? You're essentially just tapping your tongue against the alveolar ridge once really fast. And the placement where that tapping is happening is higher on the alveolar ridge. So t, d, it's right above your teeth, right? The tongue positioning for those sounds is right above your teeth. For the r sound, it is much higher on your alveolar ridge, almost approaching the roof of your mouth. And your tongue is also flattening out and stretching out sideways, so it's making contact with the insides of your top molars, okay? Ra, ra, ra. You can feel the insides of your molars when you say that sound much more than you can when you say t, d. All right? So the alveolar flap is not a stop. It is shaping the air as it's coming out, and it's helping you blend the two parts of that word together. So it's kind of the glue that is connecting those two words together. Now, if you said the word daddy without the alveolar flap, using the actual d sound in both places, daddy, yeah, people can understand you. It'll sound a little different, but of course people can understand you. Recognizing what's going on here is important also to increase your comprehension of spoken English, because you may choose to do it or not do it, but Americans speaking English are going to do it. So you need to understand that that's what's happening. So when speech is going at a fast rate, these sound changes can really mess with your processing if you're not familiar with them, if you don't know what's going on. All right? Now, this sound is actually a sound that a lot of languages have. In Spanish, this is the singleton R sound, like para, pero. Okay? In Hindi, we have the single R sound as well, like rat, rat. It's that same sound. Marathi, same thing, ratra, ratra, ranga, same thing, right? A lot of languages have this sound in it. So if you speak any of these languages, you already know how to make this sound. You've been making it all your life, okay? Now, the trick is just to recognize what words use that sound, or what are the contexts in which the t or d sound change into this alveolar flap sound. And luckily, there are 4 pretty clear rules around it, and just one little exception. So rule number 1. When the t or d sound, okay, single, double, doesn't matter because English doesn't really have double sounds. When the t or d sound is between two vowel sounds, not letters, vowel sounds. So we're paying attention to what it sounds like, not how it's written, okay? When the t or d is between two vowel sounds and the vowel sound that comes after the t or d is unstressed, the t or d changes into the alveolar flap sound. Okay? Here are some examples. Widen, otter, letter, metal, metal. T, t was flanked by vowels, and the vowel that came after it was unstressed every single time. And therefore, the t or d changed into the alveolar flap sound. The second rule is actually, in my mind, just an extension of the first rule, because if we focus on the vowel sounds, then the second rule isn't really another rule. But if you fixate on the way a word is written, then the second rule will help make it clearer. Okay, so what is it? If it's a vowel followed by the t, followed by a syllabic l sound. Okay, so what do I mean by that? It's easier to just give you an example. Take a look at a word like title. Okay, when you spell it, what comes after the t in the middle? The L. All right, so that's not a vowel sound. However, when you say the word, what are you actually saying? Title. Oh, right? So you are adding that vowel sound. So it's called a syllabic L, but to me, it's just basically an unstressed sound in there. All right? So title. Other examples would be pedal, battle, paddle. Okay? If you look at the spelling, yes, it's followed by the L. However, when you say it, it does absolutely have an unstressed vowel in there. Rule number 3. If you have a vowel followed by an R, followed by a t, d, followed by an unstressed vowel, that t, d, also changes into a flap sound. Here are some examples. Hardy, deported, party, 30. Vowel, R, T, D, vowel, unstressed. All right? Let me give you an example of why it is important that the second syllable is second vowel, the vowel after the T or D is unstressed. Okay? Listen to these two words. 40, 14. In the word 40, the T changes into the alveolar flap because it is followed by an unstressed vowel. 14, it still has the same things. It has vowel, R, T, and another vowel, but this time the second vowel is stressed. So it absolutely does not change into the alveolar flap. Okay? 14, 14, 40, 14. Similarly, 30 changes into the flap. 13 does not change into the flap because the second vowel is stressed. All right, rule number 4 is also just an extension of rule number 3, similar to what we had with rules 1 and 2, okay? So if we have a vowel, R, T, D, followed by a syllabic U, it also becomes a flap. Let me give you some examples. Curdle, wordle, griddle, startle, turtle. All of them, if you listen to the sound, definitely have that unstressed syllable after the T or D sounds. If you look at the spelling, the T is followed by a consonant, U, okay? Hence it's called a syllabic O, but functionally it's the same, all right? So we have 4 rules that we covered, and of course, there has to be at least one exception because it's English. Here's the exception. If you have a word that has a vowel, a T, followed by another vowel and an N at the end, then that T does not change into the flap. Okay, so these would be words like mitten, button, kitten. The T sound is changing, but it is changing into something completely different. It is not a flap. Okay, and we're actually going to talk about what's happening in those words next week. These changes don't happen only at the word level. They also happen at the sentence level. Okay, so the same rules apply, but it can go across words. So that second vowel sound could be in the next word, doesn't have to be in that single word by itself. Okay, so let's take a look at some examples where we are using that alveolar flap because we have vowel, consonant, or D, and then the next word has a vowel that is unstressed. And so in that situation as well, the alveolar flap is going to come into play. Got around to it. Got around, got around. We're treating that almost like one word, got around. And if you treat it like one word, then that is flanked by 2 vowels that are unstressed, okay? Because when we speak, we do not speak one word at a time. We do blend the words together. Got around to it. Here's another example. Moving right on, right on. Bite off more than you can chew. Bite off became our unit. Bite off. Okay, that changed into the flap sound. A lot on my plate. A lot on my plate. Lot on, a lot on my plate. All right, so that was the flap sound. We talked about what it is, how to make it, which consonants change into the flap sound, and the 4 rules that govern when that change happens, and of course, one exception. We also looked at examples for each of the rules. We looked at some sentences that use that alveolar flap as well. Now you have everything you need to get the most out of the bonus PDF that I have for you in the description. So make sure you download it. Make sure you practice it. The more you practice it, the easier it's going to be. The more naturally it's just going to happen when you speak. I hope you found this video interesting. As always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I love hearing from you. I love hearing the wonderful insights and comments that you leave for me. I appreciate that. And I will see you next week.